So here we are today at Barnes Park for the third to last cyclocross race this year.
Yeah, is that the what? Semi-penultimate?
Whatever the terminology is.
And you hopped right on the gas, dude. Great start.
Then so this time we've actually got four cameras going. We have mine, yours, Steven, who has the blue bike here, and then a rear camera on my bike as well. So we're going to be able to hop around and hopefully get some better angles this week of the different footage.
Yeah. Now, Matt skidded on that first turn, and as we get into the second one, Steven skids too.
It's deceiving. The grass is more slippery than it looks, especially in these mornings now because it's so cold. The grass is just frosty and it just turns straight to moisture as soon as you ride over it.
So what's the right choice then for tires? Is it the fast rolling ones, and you just trust your cornering ability, or do you use the tires like you and I have, like the mix?
I don't know. It's hard because this one was a lot of grass. It was probably 90% grass, and so those fast rolling tires, they make a big difference when you're on the grass. Our tires are a little bit knobbier, which is partly down to we don't have multiple wheel sets with different knobbies. Mm-hmm. So we just have what we have and we hope for the best. But today, Steven has a little bit more of the kind of fast rolling tire. Yeah. And he is able to go pretty quickly on the grass. He does slip a couple times like we just saw. So they have their drawbacks, but they're fast on the grass.
I think, though, one thing that we can look at is like when you're cornering, and you can kind of see that Steven's getting better and better every week. So this is, he'll only improve from here. But as he's cornering, you really, with those fast rolling tires, I feel like you have to kind of get that edge, really dig it into those turns.
Yeah, I'd agree. Where our tires with the bigger knobbies, we don't
have to be so precise.
We don't have to be quite as accurate with our lean, which is good because that's a skill that I'm still working on. It's gotten better, but it's definitely not a perfect science for me yet.
Yeah. So as we were getting up to this section, I knew that there was a sand pit coming, and you and I had talked about this before the race, but I knew that going through the sand I would have a pretty good advantage because that's one of my strengths. So I hopped in right behind you and tried to overtake and create as much of a gap here as I could.
Yeah, so you got past Steven nicely on the inside there, and then you came around me on the inside here as well. So now you're into the position you want to be in going into this first sand pit. And like you said, the sand is one of your strengths. So we have not a big gap between you and me right now, but definitely it gives you the room to breathe and get through the sand pit without having to worry about it. Mm-hmm. So for me, I almost hit this pole over here, so I have to jump off really quick.
And then I think Steven has
to jump off. I don't know if it was because of me or not, but anyway, pretty much everyone jumps off except for this guy here on the mountain bike whose name I don't know. He was one of the newer racers, I'd say, this week. Every week there's new racers that we don't know who they are, which is awesome because it's fun that people come out to try it. But he turned out to be stronger than we expected for at least the first lap.
Yeah, he did pretty well. But yeah, I mean, just like you were saying, riding through that sand definitely gave me quite a bit of a gap. I also think, for my part, I might have gone through my matchbook a little bit fast on this race.
Maybe. I mean, you had a huge gap there, and now there's about 3 or 4 of us kind of chasing you back. You're my teammate, so I don't want to chase you back too hard. So I'm riding at tempo, but I'm not going to be putting in any extra effort to try to close that gap. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going easy either, right? Because otherwise everybody that we already dropped is going to catch back up to us.
Right. This was a fun section, and it evolved as the race went on. It got more and more slick and muddy. So you really had to kind of change your lines as the time went on through this section.
Yeah, I think every single time through this it was a different line. And the line you wanted to take started to get more muddy, and you're like, great, that's where I want it to be.
Yeah, then you just start looking for grass.
Which isn't always great for carrying your speed through a corner. So sometimes you have to take the muddy line anyway. If you want to be able to carry the speed a little better, you just have to be prepared for it potentially being slippery.
Right.
So after this little kind of twisty section here, there's this big, long right-hander leading up to the second and the more challenging sand pit. The first one was tough, but this second one is really tough.
Yeah, it's something about making a turn while you're in the sand really just messes with you. I mean, would you say there's a specific technique or anything that we did
No,
that
the
made a
technique
difference?
is do not crash.
Just don't crash. Get the cadence up
So
high.
you can see here, it's just you. As soon as you hit the sand, it's just you try not to fall over. And everybody, I think even you jumped off on this first.
I missed it on this first one for sure.
Yeah, so everybody jumps off there. You can see you still have a pretty good gap up there in the front.
But look at you mounting from your non-dominant side.
It's true. I practiced this yesterday. Could not do it.
Couldn't do it. Apparently, when you're not in your head, you're actually really good at this stuff.
Let's hope it works that way next week.
I don't know who this mountain bike guy was, but he did a great job at picking his times when to pass and keeping right in the right spot to be able to take advantage of mistakes. And I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, he was right on it the first lap. And then right behind me is still Steven and Matt. These little stairs were just short enough that you couldn't jump them. Not that we could have anyway, but just short enough that you couldn't jump them for people that are more advanced. But just long enough that you're like, how many steps per stair am I supposed to take?
Yep. And then you go down those stairs and you feel like your helmet's going to fall off.
Well, I was just worried I was going to miss one of the stairs and end up doing like a face plant over the bars.
Not a fun place to do it.
No. So I actually slowed down a little bit every time for those stairs, just a hair, just enough to make sure that my front wheel hit the stair instead of me just going right over it.
Call it reckless, but I'm pretty sure I just went straight off of it and hoped for the best.
Oh man, this next section was pretty cool. So they have two alternate routes here. So you, myself, and Steven all go for this jump route. The mountain biker goes for the run over route, which is shorter, but at the disadvantage of now you have to remount your bicycle. Mm-hmm. So you can see, like, we come around this corner, and he comes out probably about even.
Yep. Although he did close a little bit of a gap on me.
I think he maybe did.
It wasn't like I slowed down through that section. So in other races, they've had this same decision where we've had to choose, and I've always felt like the jump has been faster, so that's what we stuck with, and clipping in sometimes can be a real nightmare.
I think if you're good at clipping in, the run was probably faster. Mm-hmm. We're just not that great at it yet, so we choose to not have to do that when possible.
Yep. We just fast-forwarded a little bit, right?
We did. We skipped through a little bit of the boring stuff now, and Steven and Matt and myself are now right up on your wheel, so we've closed that gap there. And you're still in the lead. This is what, the second lap now? That you've been in the lead basically the whole way. So that's pretty good.
It was good. I was gassed. I'm pretty sure my heart rate was totally pegged for the first 2 laps.
I mean, that's kind of how it is.
But
you get to the next stand.
It's true.
In front. And this time we all make it through. You go all over the place. I go the other side. Steven goes in between. And everybody makes it through. But it is chaotic in the sand.
That was chaos. And I don't know what happened to me. I must have hit a weird rut and couldn't get out of it. But
well, as soon as you hit the rut, it just takes your wheel. And you just have to try to stay upright.
Yep.
So now I'm in the front. And Steven, whose camera we're using right now, is right behind you. You can't see Matt, who is right behind Steven. And I'd say for the majority of the races this season, it's been usually the 4 or 5 of us up near the front. Mm-hmm. So we're all familiar with each other now, and we know how good and what strengths each rider has. But you're going to see here, you make a smart call, and you draft off of me on this long, straight section.
Yeah, drafting doesn't really do a whole lot in cross, except on this kind of long sections where there's just nothing to do but pedal.
Yeah, and then you play it perfectly. Right at the end of the straight, you come around, and now you're in the front for the curvy technical sections where you maybe can't put in as much power anyway, but you're in the front, so you get to pick your line, which is always nice.
Yep, and you did a great job here of just, it wasn't much of you didn't have to do much, you just kept your line, but you stayed really strong and kept Steven from being able to get through and get around where he was definitely probing to see if he could do it.
He was trying to get around. I didn't cut him off or anything. I just held the line that made it a little bit hard to know whether you should pass on the inside or the outside. Mm-hmm. And in the end, he just chooses to stay on my wheel, which isn't bad because, again, we're going around this long right-hander before the next sand pit. This time, though...
Oh, yeah. Here it comes.
Look at that. Look at that power.
We're not very good at very many things, but
look at that.
We got through the sand pit.
Through the sand pit with the turn, it's probably an all-time high for us.
As cross riders.
And it gives us a little bit of a gap, which is nice.
Yep. Fast forward to, what is this?
Coming into lap number 3 now,
Coming into lap number 3, and I've burned through my matchbook at this point, and I'm pretty sure that's what I told you.
I think you leaned over to me and said, you better go.
Yeah.
So I jump in front here, and, I mean, you're still on the wheel, though, right? Like, you didn't completely blow up. The guy on the mountain bike earlier, he completely blew up. We don't...
The rest of the field is gone.
We don't know what happened to them.
You can see all behind on this rear camera. No one is coming up.
Yeah, it's just you, me, Steven, and Matt. And it's pretty much, we have a good gap now. So the podium is going to be decided between us 4.
Mm-hmm. And I think all 4 of us know it at this point, and so we're all just kind of waiting to see what the next event is in the event, for lack of a better phrase.
The next event in the event. If that doesn't get any more specific, I don't know what will help you.
So in hindsight here, this is actually where I lost the race. I felt totally gassed. I was still gassed from the last long stretch. And in hindsight, if I had pushed through this flat section a little bit harder, been a little bit closer to Matt's wheel and yours and Steven's, I think it would have been to my benefit.
Exactly, because right here, Steven actually makes a little bit of a mistake and hits that slippery stump. And so he crashes, which allows a big gap to open up between me and him, but also Matt gets by him. The only problem is that you were just a little bit too far back from Matt's wheel, so you couldn't get past Steven, and Steven's able to stay in 3rd place there.
Exactly.
Never fun.
Never fun, but
you learn as you go.
Yeah, you do. And I feel like you did a good job. You were just, I don't know, could you hear him behind you? What?
I knew Steven was close, and I could tell he was having a good race. Fortunately, I made it through the sand pit again, but right there I made a rookie error, which we're going to see the result of in just a second.
Word to the wise, when you come out of the sand pit, come out straight.
Lift your wheel up. Do not hit it full on, and come out straight. So right now you can't tell yet, but as soon as I unclip here, my wheel gets real squirrely and just explodes. So that's the end of my race.
All done. And now we're down. Then there were 3.
So now Matt goes by, who's in 1st place. He must have made it through the sand pit because Steven was in front, but now he's behind Matt. Mm-hmm. And then you roll through just a few seconds after him. Pretty good job clipping in there.
Thanks. Yeah, I was probably 20, 30 feet behind you, and I thought I heard a gunshot go off.
It was loud.
So loud.
I could not believe it.
Crazy stuff.
So somewhere, Steven's camera died, so we don't have that footage. But somewhere, he got past Matt again.
Yeah.
And we're going to jump over, and he's able to maintain his little lead through the sand pit here. Matt is almost able to ride it this time. If he had ridden it, I think
he'd have had a really good chance of winning
he could
the
have
race
won
right there.
Because that gap, Steven basically holds all the way to the line.
Now, even there, I would venture to say that if he hadn't come to a complete stop, if he had kept his momentum going, he could have carried that momentum through the rest of the sand. But because he came to that dead stop, it's one of those things you have to anticipate when you're riding.
It's just hard to do.
Right.
In the sand especially.
Mm-hmm.
But congratulations to Steven. He's been consistent all season, and here he comes around for the victory this week.
Solid win.
He did so great. Matt did really well. I think
great.
The difference, like I said, was mostly in that sand pit there where Steven was able to get back on the gas sooner, and Matt comes in for 2nd place. And big news for you is first podium of the season.
Yeah, it was a good time.
You've always been so close. Always so close. But this week you came in for the podium, and that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Next week, state championship.
Bring it on.